been joined in studio by Dara Smith-Naughton, our very own.
Oh, lads.
Good morning, how are things?
Morning.
Yourselves?
We're excited for this.
Yeah.
This weekend. Excited, but also a little bit fearful because Italy, especially in Parma, have had the run of this Irish team in recent years.
It's a weird one. Like, you kind of look at the calendar at the start of the year at Italy and you'd be like, who's next after that? Yeah, but with this, you kind of have to look twice because lost the last 2 times. And I think this may be our most important game, weirdly enough, because we know we're a 2-win team in this tournament. I think we can confidently say we should beat Wales and Scotland. But Italy, there's no evidence of that with this team. So it's kind of like, in order to be competing for that top 2, you have to guarantee that you get 3 wins every year. That's just the way it is. And we can't say that at the minute with Italy. So it's a weirdly very important game when it normally isn't. So, yeah, it's an important fixture. It'd be interesting, the team that comes out. I think it goes out at 11 a.m. today. Presume there won't be many changes.
Would you expect the same 15?
I think so. There wasn't any glaring problems in terms of performances. I know Tanya Rossa was calling for Anya Breen to come into the midfield, which is an interesting one. She came off the bench. I didn't think she had her best outing, but she's heaps of experience. I think there may be room for a change at 9 depending on the kicking strategy. We didn't manage.
Did Emily Lane do much wrong for you?
No. I think Avian Riley was a bit quicker in getting the ball out of the ruck. And I think she's just... I like both players. I think Avian Riley is a bit more to her kicking game just probably because of her sevens experience. So she may find herself in the starting squad, but I think you're fine with either. I think it's a strong 15 as it is. But there's a few positions not settled yet. I'd say the wing as well. Anna McGann's not a natural winger. We may see Katie Corrigan come back in. She played a good bit last year. She's still quite young. She's only 19. But yeah, we'll find out at 11 a.m. I suppose.
Yeah, there was I suppose a big difference in the performance attacking sense anyway between the pack and the backs. Like 3 tries come from direct aggression and persistence from the forwards last week. The backs, certainly analysis that we've done so far this week ourselves at Grace Davitt and the likes and in Six Nations show yesterday is the analysis and summary is a lack of cohesion in attack among the backs. What's your assessment?
It's interesting you say the 3 tries that we scored came from the forwards. You could argue the 3 tries we conceded came from the backs because they're all from wayward kicks. Look, I think there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of experience, but there's also a good bit of youth there. There are a few people coming over from the sevens game who you see at times Costigan, sometimes she'd get on the ball, and not that she'd revert back to her sevens game, but we'd almost expect that of her, just to run through 3 people. You can't really do that in 15s because they're getting hit by 2 people and not 1. There's a lot of talent. Like Aoife Dalton's a great centre. Eve Higgins is very, very versatile. Stacey Flood, I thought, had a great game for the most part.
Did you? Dan O'Brien, I think in general play she had a good game. Maybe a few of her exits were a bit iffy. But I've no doubt that she'll come back and have a much better performance. I wouldn't have too many worries, but they'll have to have a better game this weekend.
What about the kicking though? Because we talked about Dan O'Brien's conversion rate not good last weekend, and then you look at the French and you see someone like Moran Bourgeois slotting them over with ease.
5 from 5, yeah.
That late one was brilliant. And it just goes to show the difference it can make. Like ultimately it was 12 points we lost by, and the kicking from the French was just exceptional. So like, has it just highlighted more how much you need an ability to have a 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 sort of success rate from your conversions?
I think Dana is that. I think she had a bad day. My bigger concern with the kicking is that we've no one really to back her up from off the bench. That's a massive concern because we went with a 6-2 split last week. You'd imagine we'd probably go the same again. Nicole Foley didn't feature, so you've no natural backup kicker at all. And Breen has kicked before, but she's not a 10. She's a centre. And if Dana does go down or has to come off for whatever reason, maybe HIA, you're looking like that kicking off the tee gets worse again. Now, I think Dana had an off day. I think she'd be much better this weekend. She was the highest kicking percentage of anyone in the last Six Nations, no, I don't think there's many concerns there. But yeah, and I think even out of hand, a lot of the heavy lifting is done by Dana and Stacey Flood. Between the two of them, they kicked all but one of our kicks out of hand last week. That's a major concern. You can't, like, your backline needs to be doing more to help them out. As we said, there was no box kicks at all. I think you need box kicks in your game. I wouldn't be too worried about off the tee, but out of hand, yeah, there's a lot to be worried about there.
Is this Ireland side under Scott Beeman, is it a reactive side in that it deploys its game plan opponent dependent, or is there enough proactivity in this side to play its own game? Does it have its own identity?
It's a very new squad, so it's tough to say at this point. The pack is very new. There's a lot of young players in there. I'd like to think we have our style in that we do rely a lot, just going off last week, on the line-out. Our line-out was amazing. It was 18 out of 19. Line-outs won. We got 3 tries off the back of them. It's tough with Italy. Italy have a lot of great backs. That's where you're looking at. Whereas France, they have very big forwards. So you have to adjust your game plan. But I would like to think we've adopted somewhat of an identity in our forwards. That being said, a lot of our back play will have to be adjusted, as Grace was saying during the week. Grace Davitt, how we're getting the ball to our wingers wasn't very efficient.
Just wide passing,
swinging wide passes.
So what that for me, that would slow down play and allow the opponents to get back into position.
Yeah, you're looping passes, and then you're also, when you're throwing 15, 20 metre passes, there's no one with that winger to come and help her. So there's no available runner on the inside. There's no one to hit that ruck. And you likely have a full back and a winger hitting your winger. So it's it wasn't efficient at all. That's the one criticism I'd have in terms of our passing game from last week. But that can be fixed during the week. I think that's an easy fix. Yeah.
Slightly smaller point. You mentioned wingers there. It's unusual that the captain was Amy Lee Costigan.
Why is that unusual? Just positionally.
You don't see it often in rugby.
It's just very far from the play.
Yeah.
The one thing is they did have a vice captain in Niamh Jones.
Yeah, they're
in the
hooking,
pack,
yeah.
so that's fair enough. But it is very rare. Even just people will give out about fullback captains. I don't have much of a problem with that because they see a lot of the game from where they are. But a winger is just so far away from so much of the play. It may only get 10 touches a game. It's an interesting one. Amy Lee, she's obviously a massively experienced player. She's an Irish rugby legend across 15s and 7s. It is an intro. I can't really think of one.
Yeah. You think it's discrimination there, what was said, do you?
As in not allowing wingers
a winger is
captain.
totally entitled to be captain.
Well, I think being a captain, part of it is your impact on the pitch, but also a lot of it, and in fact 90% of captaincy, 90% of your week more is spent off the pitch. It's what you say in the dressing room beforehand, at halftime and after the game, when you're sitting down for dinner with the team, when you're in the hotel in Parma beforehand. Yeah, you mightn't be as involved in the play, but I think the aura is still there. If you're,
Just remember what I said in the dressing room, because I'll be too far away from you on the pitch.
You won't hear me. Megaphone from the wing.
I'd imagine Niamh Jones was doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of what she was seeing amongst the forwards.
What's your instinct saying?
I think we'll get the job done. I think similar to Grace Davitt, I think it will be a tough first half, like it was against France. I think we'll win. I think we'll win by, I'll say 5 points. I think our forwards will do the heavy lifting again. It'd be interesting to see if there are any changes to that back line. But yeah, I'll go with an Ireland win. But not guaranteed, I don't think.
No, because when you're looking at the Italians last weekend, they lost 38-5 to England in that game in York, but they basically held England scoreless for most of the second half. And then you look at the game last year in the RDS, 27-21 to Ireland. To Italy. Ireland absolutely should have won that game and dominated. But is there something psychologically about the Italians that in the last two years? 2022 is the last win over them. It's a tough one.
I just think they're a good team. It's not just us that have been caused problems. I know they were beaten well by England last week, but that's an England team that put 80 points on us last year. And they struggled in that second half at times really to get through Italy. So I don't know, like it's not like a thing years ago in the men's Six Nations with Italy that it's like you just have to watch them sometimes. I think this is actually a good team. They have a great player in their outside centre, Alyssa Dinka. She's she was nominated for Player of the Tournament last year. She's one to watch out for this game. I think we're better than them. I don't think it's a curse thing. I think the last couple of years we were putting together a squad and we put together some iffy performances, but I think it's more of a settled squad now, and I think that'll show on Sunday afternoon.
I thought there was a funny comment, or an interesting comment rather, from Scott Beamond in the build-up to this game, where he said the beauty of where we've got this group to over the last 18 months is that we can now tolerate work, can now tolerate big games against some sizable athletic opposition. He's talking about the France game last weekend. And the cost to us physically is, touchwood, fairly low cost at this stage. And he said, so in that sense, we do feel it was a missed opportunity. That's a game in 6 months we need to be winning. I thought that was funny. Like, Six Nations is now, not in 6 months. I understand what he means, that this team is on a journey and a process, but you don't get time.
Well, I think the focus may be the World Cup.
Possibly, of course.
That might be it. We're not going to win the Six Nations. We've lost the game already. And like I say, it's more settled squad. It's not quite the finished product yet, I don't think. There's probably 1 or 2 changes that will be made down the line. But I think they've got a decent group. I think Spain are in our group, and they're maybe New Zealand, but it's a decent group. We have a good chance of making it out of it. I think we're a bit away from winning the Six Nations and obviously win the World Cup, but to get to a quarter final in the World Cup will be massive for Irish rugby and massive for the fans. It's not a home World Cup, but it's not far away from home, just across the water. So I think there may be an IRFU directive to look ahead to that, maybe, in terms of how we're planning and how we're picking our squads. But yeah, I don't mind that. From Scott B, I don't mind that.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully we get the result this weekend in Parma. Dara, thanks a million as always.